All right, good evening, everyone. As you know, I've been running Thursday evenings as a get back to basics, sort of geared at new agents, but I keep on encouraging, seasoned agents to join as well, because there's skill sets that, sometimes you just forget. You get a little bit out of practice, or sometimes you learn something. Like I know I sit for a million times for a conference or training or something, and if you pick up one thing that you didn't know before, you learned something. It's worthwhile, right? And our industry is big on us doing our due diligence and not making mistakes, really big transactions. So it's a good thing to go over basics. So I've been doing a lot about listing. I know for the last 2 months, probably because I feel like we're in listing season right now, right? How's everybody feeling about the market right now, though? Like, it's kind of a weird spring. We are in listing season, but it's not that huge influx. Now I've seen the inventory go up, but me personally, it's not like I've got my regular burst of listings at this time of year, right? It's a little bit of a strange market we're in. So during COVID, we experienced that normally our slow times were busy. And now, they announced those 2 rate hikes, things have kind of slowed down a little bit. And what's supposed to be our busy season is kind of acting like a bit of a lull, right? So it's good to like think about it, think about what's affecting it, because when you're talking to your buyers, they're going to ask you, what's the market like? Is it a good time to buy? What are we telling our buyers right now? Yeah. So it's kind of a teeter-totter time, right? Like they say. So the inventory is a little bit more, which makes it more of a buyer's market, right? And things are kind of held and sitting on the market. We're not seeing those massive aggressive bidding wars. So it is a good time to buy. But again, like I say, it's kind of that teetering point where at what point now? So a lot of mortgage guys are saying variable is still good. It still works out to be better, right? What are we going to do when there's more and more rate hikes? How's that going to affect their buying power? How's that going to affect our buyers going forward, right? So we got to get them to nab a property at a good time, right? But we're going to go back to basics to working with buyers now that we've talked about the market a little bit. And we'll just go to my material here. So some of these are no-brainers, but I like to go over them because you really have to be mindful. I tell you, as a seasoned agent, forget to ask things right off the bat. And then when I go to reduce things to paperwork, I'm like, oh yeah, I should have asked you these questions, right? So it's good to go over them on a regular basis and remind yourself what you should be doing. So you bump into a buyer. And so I have like these rules. I just put a quick list together of rules to working with buyers, right? So what's our first rule? Always ask them if they're working with other agents, right? The worst thing you want to do is start showing them houses and or you have a listing and someone's called you and you show it to them and they say, great, I'm going to have my agent put an offer in for me. Well, you just waste your time because maybe they have a BRA already signed with that agent, right? So you have to ask them if they've reduced anything to writing. Do they have a contract that's active right now with another agent, right? So pre-qualify your clients. What does this mean? We want to ask our clients, have you gone to get your mortgage yet? Because they can say all day long, oh, my budget is 800,000. And I've experienced this before, in the past as a newer agent, and they say, my budget's 800. And I'm like, great, they know what their budget is. And you go and you look, and then you submit the APS and the mortgage guy goes, no, they can't afford this. The highest they can get is 650, right? Just because in their mind, they think this is what they qualify for. Each agent is running their debt to income ratios, seeing what they're qualified for and what the payments they can handle. It's not necessarily what your client thinks it is. So you want to ask them, are you pre-qualified? If not, what's the first thing you do? You got to pre-qualify your clients. You got to get them to go to a mortgage agent. You got to get them to have that pre-qualification to know what budget you're working in. Again, you don't want to go show all these homes that they can't afford at the end of the day. Discover what their motivation is for buying. So very often you ask our clients, oh, why are you looking to purchase a house, right? The motivation, when you discover their motivation, helps you file their priority and how you're going to go with your schedule day to day and work with who. Okay, so if somebody says to you, I just got a job and I need to move from Mississauga to Scarborough before the end of July, that's a serious client. I'm going to give that client all my attention this week till I sell that client something, because that makes them a high priority because of their motivation, right? Where if somebody says, oh, the market prices are a little down right now, right? Maybe I'll think of moving to something, a little bit bigger because I can afford it now. Let's see what's out there. that's not going to trump, necessarily my client here. I'm going to definitely spend more time with the people that are really motivated to buy right now, because you want to knock those ones off first, because if you don't, somebody else is going to nab them. They're really motivated. They're going to look on their own. They have access to going to open houses, and or they can check out on realtor.ca, and very quickly they'll get snapped up by another agent, right? So you got to prioritize your buyers by hot, warm, cold leads kind of thing. Another thing is you want to discuss the difference between deposits and down payments, right? So I have another little slide I'm going to go over and touch on that a little bit, but you'd be surprised how many clients don't know the difference, right? And I'm telling you, like, we take it as for granted how much we know, because this is our daily life. This is what we do for a living. But when you ask your client, well, how much you have to have for a down payment or deposit, they don't really know the difference, right? Keep appointments, be on time. Okay, so I was actually just redoing my RICO continuing education courses. I have it on in the background all day now because I'm in my renewal time. Every 2 years, you guys have to do it. They're going to go over what the process is for showing properties, right? There are a lot of reasons aside from just being professional that you have to show up on time, right? So a lot of times, if you don't show up on time, maybe there are other agents there who might offer to let your buyer into the property. Your buyer might try to gain entry themselves if they get antsy. A lot of buyers have tried to do that. You're 20 minutes late. They might go knock on the door to see if they can gain access to the property. They're tired of waiting around for you. This poses a huge problem for you, right? Because you're the one who's booked that time slot, that appointment. If there's a tenant inside during that time and they knock on the door and the tenant is surprised to see that a buyer is knocking on their door unrepresented, they might file a complaint against you. RICO's going to come down hard. Okay, so you need to make sure you're timely for your appointments for many different reasons like that. There's been so many RICO complaints that have come about because agents didn't show on time. Never give that lockbox code ahead of time to your buyers. If you say, yeah, I'll be there in 10 minutes, here's the code, go in and start looking. Huge fines. They'll make you redo courses. They might even revoke your license if you've done it once before, right? So be on time, keep your appointments, be on time, okay? Establish a needs versus wants list. So this is really important because your buyers get really flustered. I find I sort of take for granted that I can go through 10 houses and remember the details of them all. Your buyers will go through and go, I really like the first house because it had a double car garage. And I'll go, okay, great. And they'll go, the women will say, oh, I don't want to remember what the kitchen looked like though, because now we've looked at 10 houses over the course of their purchase, right? So a needs versus wants list is good because you can keep in mind for what's important to your client. You're going to learn them over time. So even you can reduce the time you're spending showing properties. You should become really fine-tuned and get in tune with what your clients want. Right. So if they say to you, I really want a basement apartment, but then you find over time that they're loving the pool and the big yard more than they care if there's ever a basement apartment, that's a needs versus wants list, right? Always get your buyer agreement signed. Okay. And I know as a working agent, it's a super difficult thing to do. You can't take a person for a first showing and say, here, sign this. It's difficult to get that signature, right? But if you're spending lots of time with this client and you've spent the better part of 3 weeks showing them 20 plus homes, right? And they go to an open house on a Saturday and they end up purchasing through that listing agent, you've just wasted 2 weeks of your time, right? So it's really important to try and reduce those things to writing because it protects you. You can even put them in the buyer registry system. I know a lot of people don't do that, but RICO uses it. They say, hey, was this person working with your client? Okay, did you put them in the buyer registry system? They take that into consideration and you have to prove that you've done that, right? The BRA though, they always ask for the BRA. When was it signed? Do you have one signed? Nope, you don't have one signed. Well, too bad, you just wasted 2 weeks of your time. You don't have any claim to that commission, right? Remind your clients not to call the listing agent directly if they see ads or for sale signs. So I love this one. I put this in my list. I think it's super important because it kind of keeps your clients on track. So there's a couple of things that I do. I tell them, hey, listen, if you see something come up in your neighborhood and you want to know, I do this not only to my buyer clients, my seller clients, and you want to know how much it is, give me a call, shoot me a text. I don't care. You're not bugging me. I don't want them calling that number on the sign. I want them calling me. I'm their real estate resource. My clients are going to blow up my phone because they want to know the answers. They're going to go, oh, you know what? That house went up on that street. Let me call Christine. That's their first thought. Not their first thought is, what's the number on the sign, honey? When they're in the car, right? You really, really want to train your clients to do that. Okay. I say, remind them of open house protocol. What's the open house protocol? So as an agent listing a property, I have my registry ready there. As soon as you come in the door to view this property on my open house, I'm going to say, hey, what's your name and number? And, you know, you sign my registry, because I'm going to call all of you back. Whoever didn't come to put an offer or purchase this house, I've now collected buyers. Okay. Don't lose your buyers. I arm my clients with business cards. I give them, you're going to go to open houses this weekend. That's great. No problem. Here's a stack of my business cards. When you walk in, just say, no, I already have an agent. Thank you. Right. And I'm like, and you don't have to sign the registry if you have an agent. Right. So that's sort of the protocol. If you don't have the opportunity to give them a business card and you're on the phone with them, just remind them that that's what they have to say when they enter the property. Because if they want to purchase something that they've seen during an open house, technically that listing agent has given them the first show of the property. So if they don't declare to him clearly that they already have a buyer representation, then you're out of a commission with the client that you've been working with, right?
Sorry, one I don't understand. You said before earlier the number or something. It's the number. What do you mean, like a?
So, like, okay, if you're my client, I'm going to say to you, you know what? Anything you see. So you're driving with your wife on the weekend, for instance, and you see this house on Kennedy Road, and you go, "Oh my God, it's beautiful! It's perfect! Like it must have just gone up. It's exactly what we're looking for." I'm going to tell you, give me a call. If you see anything like that, give me a call. I don't mind. I'll show it to you anytime. I'll tell you the information, because normally what happens is you're driving by with your wife. She goes, oh, I love it. I love that house, honey. Let's call the guy on the sign. Right. And what are we doing as listing agents? We're trying to pull those buyers, right? Well, if you've been working with this buyer, you might lose your buyer. So you have to train your clients I'm your resource. And that's just, you don't have to say you have to call me every time. I always just say anything you need. You're not bugging me. Any house you see, you think it's good. Maybe if I didn't send it to you, see it online, call me, text me anytime. Because I'm your resource. I like this house. Yeah, I'm not calling Ron Smith from Royal LePage. I'm calling Christine Boland from Remax, right? Exactly. You honestly have to train your clients to some degree. Yeah, we work hard, right? We're taking our time. We're doing showings. Yeah.
I got a question on buyer representation.
Yes.
That if we don't sign with our buyer representation agreement, and we are not able to get a commission from the buyer, right?
So if you don't sign a buyer representation agreement and they use another agent, it's quite difficult to prove. I mean, you can say I showed them 20 houses. RICO, like the governing body, the one that I've been telling you about that you're going to join, they're going to come, and when the complaint goes through, they're going to say, where's your buyer representation agreement? If you don't have one signed, you don't have a lot of proof to show that they owed you I guess they owed you back diligence, and I guess in the sense, or they owed you back I don't forget the word, but I'm thinking of right now, it's too late in the evening, but they owe you to be your client because you've worked with them. So not everybody does it intentionally. I'm not saying that everybody's mean, but there are a lot of mean people out there. They don't care if they're getting a good price, or the listing agent says, use me, not your agent. Did you sign anything? No, I didn't sign anything. Oh, good, because you know, if I double end this, I can get a good price for you, right?
300, that one?
Oh, you guys in the numbers. So I'm old school because you know, I always tell you guys this. I'm getting better with the numbers, but they never had numbers before. Buyer representation agreement. Yeah, exactly. So, but you cannot put through an offer for your client anyways. By the time you come to the point of get together an offer, the office needs your buyer representation agreement. You're working with a realtor and your offer and everything, right? So by that point, it's fine. But by that point, they're using you. They're putting the offer in. The buyer representation agreement just protects you in case they don't put an offer in with you during the time period that they say they're going to be your client. Do you know what I mean? Their promise. That's kind of the word I was looking for. So it's their promise to you that, yeah, you're my agent and I'm using you, So like if I find something, even if I walk you through an open house, I know that you already showed me 20 homes and I spent the better part of 2 weeks working with you. I'm going to come to you for you to place the offer for me. Or if I have a for sale by owner, so I've had that client, you know, where they find something that's not listed on realtor.ca, right? They find a for sale by owner and they want to buy it. They are still going to use me as their agent to put that offer in because you put in that time and energy, right?
So the main purpose of the agreement is to stick your client. So
Exactly, exactly. It's a promise between you and them. So in there, it says that I'm protecting your best interests. Do you know what I mean? As a client. So, and then again, they're saying that they're not using any other agent, right?
How long maximum you can go? 6 months, 1
So
year?
if it's longer than 6 months, then you have to make them sign an extra part saying that they're aware it's longer than 6 months.
Okay.
6 months is fine, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in this market, unless your client's looking for, oh, I need a pool with an indoor, a house with an indoor pool. Like, we know that's not a common product. Maybe I'll sign them when, you know, longer than 6 months, say that's not an easy thing to find, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna sign you a little bit longer and just see, you know, but
I send it with the offer together.
usually, yeah, so.
That's it. When we asking extra, they don't want.
Exactly. It's difficult. I warn you guys, I hear you. I'm guilty of the same thing,
Yeah.
but you have to try. If they
Yeah.
don't want to sign it,
I
the
asked
best you can
somebody.
do is just offer them the value by showing them properties and
Yeah.
sticking with them and showing them that you're working in their best interest.
Yeah, yeah.
But Rico is harsh. They don't
Because
care.
Several times I asked him, oh,
Yeah.
no, you don't need that. And I send it with the offer. They say,
Exactly, right? So
Also, we have to make our client to sign every time.
yeah, the buyer representation agreement, it's a hard one. It's definitely a hard one. And some do and some don't. Some don't want to sign, you know what I mean? They don't want to sign anything with you. Some are really honest. Some say, no, I'm looking with you in Toronto right now. But I'm using another guy when I want to look at properties in Pickering because I want somebody who knows the neighborhood really well.
Yeah.
That's fine. You can sign the agreement though, and just instead of for the geographical area, you can put Toronto.
Yeah.
Right? And your guy can put Pickering.
Okay.
If your guy put Pickering in surrounding areas, then you call me to show you properties if you sign that with him, right? So you can use very specific. I've had somebody actually only sign the BRA for that one specific property because they walked into my open house. You know, you have these people that have this thing that they think that if they buy from the listing agent, they're saving lots of money. We all know that they're taking both ends of the commission, right? So, I mean, sometimes people might reduce, but we all know most of the time you're double ending it, you're taking both sides. And I had someone walk into my open house and they would only sign the BRA because they wanted to put an offer in. They didn't want it, anything but that address written on the geographical area, right? So it just all depends who you get, who you're working with.
Thank you
What
for
they
your
want.
time also because one more thing here also there.
No worries.
So in case when we sign 300,
Yeah,
buyer and representative, in case they change mind, okay, we close everything, but with other guy, then we can send it Oria, Rico, the 300.
yeah.
before,
If you have a valid
then
BRA,
we get that commission, not the other guy.
yeah, because you're gonna, exactly.
Yeah.
But see, the thing is that it is, you have to see whose fault it lies. Rico will do an investigation. It's the client's fault because they're signing two different documents.
Yeah.
That's why you have to be careful that you don't just slip the document in because sometimes they'll say, I didn't know what I was signing. You know what I mean? You have to make sure that you have some kind of communication with them. It's usually good. I always try to reduce things to text when I'm talking to my clients.
Yeah.
I really like it better than a phone call because then it's a lot of he said, she said, right? So I always, especially when I send things for e-signature, I always put in my text, hey, I sent you the documents for e-signature. Please call me. I'll walk you through them. So then they can't say, they never explained it to me. I'll say, I gave them every opportunity. I even text them, please call me. I'll walk you through the document, right? Because it's really easy on e-signature to just go click, 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 not know what you're signing, right? So it's definitely a layer of protection you have to think of nowadays with everything being electronic online, right?
We can complain if our client signed with us and went to another guy.
Yeah,
And then
that's the whole part of having the BRA signed.
Rico will give us the commission from.
It's not that easy. It'll be like 6 months to a year of investigating. It'll go back and forth. They'll pull everybody's documents. That's why one thing you guys train yourself from the beginning. Be really good with all your documentation. right? Make sure you have your BRAs, you're working with a realtor, you know, your 801s, your agreement of purchase sales, keep good files on your computer. I know Joanne's not going to cut you a check unless you have all your paperwork in anyways, which is excellent, right? Because you need to be liable, but God forbid anything comes through with RICO, you have it already. And you can say, no, look, I have my BRA, I signed with them. I have all my showings I did with them. I have, you know, a record of all the, like, whatever, you know, the offers I prepared that we didn't get the house for, everything, keep it.
Even you give front office, they will keep everything.
They keep
When
everything.
you finish
Yeah.
the deal, then 24 hours, you will give them. They will take it.
So I have to give all documents to the.
Yeah, when you have a firm deal, you send everything, I'll walk you through it anyways. You send everything to deals at Remax Ace. So when a firm deal comes, they have record that a sale has happened. And then Joanne will tell you, oh, I'm missing a paperwork. Oh, I don't have the identification for this thing. Oh, this is missing a signature. Your documents will get double checked here.
That's my first time, so you guys are with.
No.
No, 100%, 100%. I'll be walking you through it. Don't worry about it.
For you,
Mhm.
because you don't have to keep everything.
Yeah.
Keep it. In case any problem, just call Joanna. Can you take it? She will print out, give you here all the document. You keep it also. They also. That's why, you know what I mean.
Mhm.
Be safe.
So I pulled this screen. I pulled this slide up and I was laughing because I see that I need to update my training material because it's just a recent change as of what last year. But anyways, so show your clients value. This is what I was talking about. You have to reduce it to writing in the BRAs. That's sometimes difficult. I find the best practice when you're working with your buyers is to show them value. How do you show your buyer clients value, right? So all our clients today are capable to use the internet and source houses they'd like to see. That's been a no-brainer for a lot of years. They can go on realtor.ca, House Sigma, Zolo, Zillow. There's so many resources out there. We used to be able to remind our clients that we were the only ones able to search for sold. So my second point is no longer valid. I'll update my training material there. You tell how long I've been training. They can now search sold. And everybody kind of had a panic, right? It was a big thing in our industry. They were like, oh my God, now what do they need us for? Now they can search what's available online and they can search what's sold online, right? They're still, you have to remind them that you do this every day, right? You need to get into the clauses. You can read the legalese, you're familiar with them, your negotiation skills. There's 1,000 other things that you can show them value for. So don't panic when they can check everything online. And you get some of those clients who know more than you know what I mean? Because they have the time. They go, oh, year over year, I noticed that, you know, EO4 area has increased to 6%. And you're going, what? Are you throwing all these stats at me? It's crazy. So it's okay that they can search this information now, but we can still remind them we have value for them. Right? Having a buyer agent means having someone on their side to represent their interest in this transaction. So very important to remind your clients, okay? Because then they won't fall into the trap. I wouldn't say trap, but they won't fall into the false sense of security when they walk into an open house, for instance, and that listing agent says, oh, I can do both sides for you, okay? You have to remind them that it's a huge transaction, the biggest transaction they're making in their life. So the value that you're offering them is that that listing agent's representing the interest of the seller. And they'll sign multiple representation. It's fine, right? Some clients don't care, but you have to remind your clients, you need someone to represent your interest. Who's representing your interest if you walk into an open house and use a listing agent? Even if they promise you $10,000 off the purchase price. 20,000 off the purchase price. What's it worth to fall into some kind of pitfall with this transaction, right? Isn't it worth to you? It's a free service to you, technically, unless you're buying a FSBO and you have to end up paying commission or something. It's a free service. The seller is paying for it. Why wouldn't you use your own representation to protect yourself in this transaction as a buyer, right? Doesn't make sense if you don't do it, right? So you have to let them know that we're familiar with the contracts and clauses used in real estate transactions. We see them every day. We can pick out an error pretty quickly or see some funny clause that's not normally in that transaction. We'll go, oh, that's not a regular clause. Let me read that a little bit closer. So this is something that we can definitely protect them. We're able to negotiate and get the fair best price. So we all know the tactics. We know how to navigate bidding wars. We know how to navigate a good price on a property. We know how to use the strengths and weaknesses of certain properties surrounding that have sold to push our sale price to, obviously all our buyers want the lowest, all our sellers want the highest. So, you know, both sides have to negotiate on their client's behalf, right? Make an emotional connection with your client, evaluate their needs. Analytical people need to know that you're knowledgeable. Amiable people need to know that you care about them. So what does this mean? So we just touched a little bit on that client who says, you know, year over year, it's 6% and blah, blah, blah. And like, you know, did you know that this changed in, you know, EO4 Dorset Park area? You need to take that client and you need to take that client seriously because this is what they need. You need to show them value. I very recently sold a professor from Hamilton a condo downtown in Liberty Village. And he was this. It was, oh, do we have a fire alarm? Maybe we have a fire alarm going off. I've never heard that before the whole time I've been here. Fire alarm or something? So yeah, so basically what you want to do is you want to give them back that they want to see that. So I worked with this client, it was a professor, and I would send him back emails and he'd go, well, year over year, what do you think this building is going to appreciate? So I'd go and I'd look at the sales, you know, and it takes you 5 minutes, you know, don't get frustrated with these clients. It actually puts their mind at ease to use you more and you're showing them value. So I'd say year over year, you know, last year it sold 500,000. This year it sold 550. It's appreciated this much over the last year. So assuming, you know, the same thing happens this year and there's nothing happening with the market, fine. In this market, I might say you might not see that kind of appreciation over the next year because there's a little bit of a halt right now. Whatever the case is, just give them that. And again, amiable people need to know that you care about them. So, you know, if they say they really, really want a 2-car garage because they, you know, their elderly mother needs to park in the winter. If you're showing them houses with no garages or a single garage and they're like, oh yeah, well, you don't really need that. You're not showing them that you care about their concerns and needs for the property. Sorry, I think I've missed a question here. Hi, Christine, the audio cut out and I'm unable to reconnect. I am going to disconnect and rejoin. Okay, no problem. Let me see here. I'm not sure if I saw that rejoin. Sorry, let me just stop the share here for a second, guys, and see if I don't see. Oh, there we go. Finally, excellent. Okay. Sorry, we just had something cut out there. All right, so back to it. So so make that connection. Be present at closing. I cannot tell you how this will affect your residual business going forward. So when you first start real estate, it's hard, it's difficult as a new agent, and you guys all know who've done it or anybody who hasn't tried it yet, be prepared for it. It's really difficult. I almost say it's like getting you have a big rock or snowball, you've got to get it rolling. So it's hard to start pushing it at first. Once you start pushing it and getting rolling, you can't stop it. Okay. So what are some of the things going to stop it? If you have to constantly look for business. So you want to rely on your repeat and your referral business at the end of the day. What that means is that you're going to be really good to your clients. So your buyer clients, let me tell you, if you're there to show them houses, then you're there to write up the offer, and then you disappear and you don't talk to them for months and you're not there the day of closing, they are going to remember that. I always make sure I put a reminder in my phone and I check in and I say, hey, closing day, exciting, congratulations. Let me know if you need anything. Very rarely your client will need stuff from you on closing day. Don't think that you're putting yourself out there and going, oh my God, it's extra work, right? What do they need from you for closing day? Your job is done and complete, right? They might call you in a panic. Oh, the lawyer said this. Oh, I need this. I didn't know I need insurance to close, right? These are things you have to guide your clients to do anyways. I'm going to talk about that as well. You can say, no problem. That's normal. Calm them, help them close, right? But other than that, just make sure that you're there for them so they feel that they remember you and your good service, right? So don't sign it all up and then forget about them. So here are the notables. Again, a lot of us find it like, oh yeah, of course we know this, no problem, but your clients don't. Okay, so make sure your client is aware of all the costs. So their mortgage agents told them they need $100,000 down payment. Great. And they think, okay, oh, I've got to save up $100,000. Closing date comes. They don't know about land transfer tax. They don't know about lawyer's fees. Or a week before closing, when they see the lawyer's ledger, they're like, what? I never knew about this. How come now I owe, $20,000 more and I don't have that to close? Protect your sales, make sure they're aware, even before they purchase a property, that they're aware of these costs. So what did your mortgage agent say? You can go with 10% down, great. So you need $50,000. And then let me look up the purchase price. You're approved for $800,000 mortgage. You know, the land transfer tax, if you buy in Toronto, is this much. If you buy in Durham, it's this much, depending on where they're looking. And your lawyer fees should be about what? $1,200, $1,500. Check with your lawyer, call a couple of lawyers, see, but they should be about that much. You need to budget, right? Remind the client to be careful with their credit. Huge. One of the first things my dad told me when I started real estate, he's like, please tell your clients, he had a sale that fell through once and he always talked about that sale. And ever since then, he warned every one of his clients, no large purchases, new credit cards, no job changes, anything unnecessary to change. Do not change it right now until closing. Why? Because your mortgage agent has approved you. They have the commitment. You got 3 months to close. In 3 months, you go and you get a Leon's card and you spend $10,000 on furniture. And then you go get a new car and you change your job. And now the mortgage company or the bank, whoever's funding your purchase, goes and checks right before closing again and goes, oh, now your debt to income ratio is way out of whack. Sorry, you no longer get a mortgage with us. Okay, it happens. It happens more often than you think. So just be aware that your clients are aware of that, because they get excited. And you say, you know what, as soon as you close and you have the key, run to Leon's and buy $50,000 worth of furniture if you want. I don't care, but don't do anything before closing.
Your father also real estate? Or?
My whole life he was a real estate agent. Yeah, that's why me, my brother, my sister-in-law, we're all agents now. Because he was just, we always did his open houses. And we, even when I bought my house before I got my license, I did all the paperwork for my, I showed dad, here, sign, because we were helping him with his paperwork. We were familiar with everything by that point, right? So remind the client that during the transaction, they are welcome to call you if they see any houses for sale that may be interested. So this is what I was saying before about training your client to call you, right? Whether it be for sale signs, ads, social media, open houses, whatever. If they do make an impromptu stop at an open house, remind them to notify the listing agent they're working with an agent already. And again, always get your BRA signed, explain the document to your client and point out your responsibilities to them and their responsibilities back to you, right? So does anybody have any questions about that so far?
Tell me, always get your BRA signed. Explain.
That's the buyer representation agreement that we were talking about.
Oh.
Yeah, so we just call it BRA for short. Sorry. Yeah, so it's a BRA, buyer representation agreement. Okay. I'm going to go on to deposits and down payments because I think it's a short enough one that we can get it covered before we finish here. So what do we tell our clients? I'm just going to stop the share and come back in because I know sometimes I lose you guys online there. Okay, 6 things to know about real estate deposits. Okay, so deposits and down payments. What are we telling our client? Okay, do you have a deposit ready? And they go, yeah, no, the mortgage guy says I need $100,000. I get this answer a lot from my buyers. And I go, no, okay, you need $100,000 for your purchase, but you're looking at, I'm just making up numbers now, $100,000, $500,000 purchase, okay? You need 5% of that purchase price. Do you have X amount tangible within 24 hours? Okay. They need to know this before, because again, I've seen it happen with a lot of new agents and they've scrambled. You find a house, everything's perfect. You go, you put the offer in, it gets accepted. You're celebrating. Do you turn to your client? You say, great, I need $50,000 tomorrow. They go, I don't have that. I need to move it from my mutual funds. It's going to take a week to come because I bank with Simply. You know, I can't order the check. The draft takes a week to come. I've heard a million excuses. I need to take it out of my RRSPs. Like I thought I had 3 months to do that before closing, right? You need to tell them you need a tangible deposit, something you can get within 24 hours. So if your money's in Simply, put it in your TD because they don't take a week to send you a draft, right? So you need to talk to your clients about these things ahead of time, because that's after you go through all that trouble and you actually have an offer accepted, it would be really saddening for you to lose it just because they can't bring in the deposit. Plus, your client has signed a legal document. So there's also the factor that if they don't want to give your client a mutual release, that they could be liable, right? And they can still come after them for the contract. When must a deposit be paid under the standard Ontario real estate contract? In Ontario, the standard real estate contract gives the buyer two choices: to pay immediately, so herewith, or to pay within 24 hours after the seller accepts the offer, right? Most buyers prefer the second option. If you're in a bidding war, you'll be encouraged to come up with the deposit immediately to show additional good faith to the seller. So we've seen this a lot in this market where you see a lot of herewith. I keep on telling my clients, I know it sucks, it's a lot of running around, but it gives you that extra clout when you're purchasing a property now. Now it's a little more quiet, but when it was real hot in like March, April, I'm telling my clients it's $6, go get me a draft, let me snap a picture, send it with your offer, so they see that we're ready to go and we're serious, right?
The deposits will be collected from trust account,
Yeah, it sits in the trust account until closing.
trust account of the Trico or
No, the trust account of the listing brokerage.
listing brokerage.
Yeah, so whoever's listed the property will collect that deposit and put it in their trust account. Yeah. Can the buyer just cancel the deal by refusing to pay the deposit after the deal is accepted? The answer legally is no. Once the deal is accepted, you can't change your mind. If you do, the seller can sell the property again. If they obtain less money that you were going to pay them, the seller can sue you for the difference plus legal fees. Okay. And it has happened. So don't think just because, you know, the agent was really nice on the phone that you can call them next morning and go, oh, my client changed their mind, they're not bringing the deposit. Can't do that. This is why you have to discuss the difference with them and tell them they have to have that money ready.
I'm suffering.
Yeah.
I'm suffering with this condition right now.
Oh yeah.
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 Yeah, like I just bought the house like right now.
Yeah.
We just ran out of some cash.
Yeah.
Short of cash, so we just asked him to extend the date, and he just said, she just said that I'm gonna make a plenty like per day. We're paying the plenty,
Yeah. You have to pay the penalty. They'll make you pay.
and
Oh yeah, if you extend the closing
and she
date, for
just
sure.
straightforward. No,
No,
they don't.
no, because we deal with it so much. Like when you deal with the agents and the sellers, like if I was a listing agent, and you came to me and you want to extend it, I understand that you have some hardship and maybe you can't, you need to delay for some reason. Your mortgage got delayed, something, you ran out of funds, whatever the case might be. Seller incurs costs too, right? So the seller's gonna have to pay longer for their insurance, you know what I mean? Longer mortgage, more, the utilities on the house, all that stuff. So they're gonna ask for, and it has to be reasonable compensation. They can't ask you, you know, give me $50,000 extra because you delayed the closing 2 days, right? But it has to be something reasonable. So you usually have to cover the seller's cost. Sometimes that seller has purchased something else and they're in a bridge mortgage. You're going to be responsible for their interest for that bridge mortgage. Different things you can be responsible for.
We just paid like $50,000 extra, like when the offer is accepted, we deposited.
Yeah.
And then we just asked that guy that we have to take some days to extend.
Yeah.
Because of our financing mortgage.
Mhm.
She just asked us that I'll charge you. You have to deposit 50,000 deposit more.
Yeah.
And have to pay some plenty.
Yeah.
So,
Because they also want to know that you're serious, that you're not extending and wasting their time. Very often they ask for an additional deposit. All common. That's why I say you have to warn your buyers of these things, right? Because some people don't have that. Say they only had 50,000 tangible in their account. Now they're short on closing and they're not getting the balance unless they get their mortgage funded. If they don't have an additional 50,000, what's going to happen? The deal's going to fall apart, right? And they can't extend it. So you have to be careful. You have to make sure they know these pitfalls ahead of time and they're aware that these things can happen, right? What happens if the deposit is paid late? If you're late with a deposit, the seller has the right to cancel the deal. This is because all time limits matter in real estate contracts. And if you're late, even by a few minutes, the seller can try and cancel, especially if the seller knows there's another buyer out there who will pay more money. If you need more time to come up with a deposit, it's wise to say so in the offer prior to acceptance. So this is very true. So sometimes a property sells and someone will call them last minute and say, oh man, how much did it sell for? You know, and they'll say, oh, I don't know. When he'll say, I was going to give 1.3 for that. Well, imagine it only sold for 1.25. They're going to be waiting for you to fall through on some way, shape, or form on this deal because they know they can make an extra 50, right? So you'll end up losing the property for your client. How much should a buyer pay as a deposit so the seller will feel secure? So we say it's a tough question. Right now, everybody's asking for that 5%. They just want basically the commissions covered at the end of the day, right? So 5% is generally covering that because the listing gives a little bit less most of the time when they're listing. And 5% sitting at the brokerage saves time, because if you don't cover the deposits at the brokerage, then you have to wait for funds to come from the lawyer to cover the deposits and have everybody paid out. So everybody likes to see 5%. You do not see 2% anymore. Why can't the deposit be paid to the seller instead of the seller's agent? Why are we paying to the listing brokerage? If a seller goes bankrupt or disappears with the deposit, the buyer is not protected. When the deposit is held in the real estate brokerage, it's in trust and protected by insurance. So even if the brokerage goes bankrupt, the buyer can get their money back. So it's a trust account. Brokerages have two accounts. They have their spending account and they have their trust account. None of their bills, their invoices, their employee payouts, nothing comes out of that trust account. The trust account is solely for commissions to come in and out, and it's protected by commission trust insurance, right? So it has to, it cannot be arranged to the seller. It's a big risk if you arrange for it to go to the seller. They don't do it, right? It doesn't happen.
So all deposits run to the brokerage trust account, right?
Trust account, everything goes in the trust account.
And from the brokerage trust account, the commission will be sent to the agent.
Yeah, you'll
Okay.
get a check cut, and if there's any balance left over, they'll write the check to your seller. You know, or your landlord or whatever the deal is that you got, if there's a balance left over. Yeah, because sometimes that 5% is too much, you know what I mean? And you'll get paid your commission. They'll send the commission to the other office for the co-op agent, and then there's a balance left for your client. Yeah. If the buyer is not satisfied with their home inspection, how can a seller refuse to release a deposit back to the buyer? So obviously we haven't been doing a lot of conditional clauses in the market we've been in. We haven't seen it, you know, it hasn't happened too much, but a deposit cannot be released unless both the buyer and seller agree. So you have to make sure your clauses in there are really solid. If you don't have a condition in there, you can't back out on inspection after the fact. Even if you took one of your buyer visits and you went in with a home inspector and you saw that there's something major wrong with the home. It's a risk you take when you go in firm with a deal. If you go in and you have the clause and it properly states, that's why they say to the buyer's discretion. They don't just say, you know, if they get a bad home inspection report, because then it's up to whose discretion, they can dispute it. If the seller refuses to sign that mutual release, the listing brokerage cannot let those funds go. So both parties have to sign the mutual release. You have to make sure that you have really good sound clauses in there to protect your clients. All right. I don't know how I talk an hour all the time so quickly. Does anybody have any questions online here? How are you guys doing? Everybody good online? Good.
Question,
Yeah.
in case the trust account, the company will sometimes like last time when home life was closing.
Yeah.
Trust account.
Yeah.
So if it you have a home life remains closing, what you want to do, like the trust account, move to somebody responsible, no?
I think there's, so that doesn't happen very often. I would imagine that there has to be some paperwork. The client has to be aware that the funds are moving from one trust to another trust. There have to be some kind of, yeah, I think the lawyer would deal with that between the purchase of one brokerage to another kind of thing. Because trust account money is not funny. No, if you're a penny short on your trust accounts, they'll come down on you. They're really hard with the brokerages. Yeah. Yeah. So it's really important. You got to keep your trust account really clean transactions. Yeah. So, all right, everyone, have a lovely Thursday. Have a really good long weekend. I actually don't usually do training on Tuesday mornings after a long weekend. So, I mean, if you guys, oh, do you have a question there? Sorry.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, what happens if you know, there's one of the buyers, they they pass away, or what happens if there's a death with one of the.
So you're still stuck in a legal contract. So it would fall to the other buyer and whoever. Okay, so for instance, if I'm a buyer with my friend and that person passes away, it would be whoever that friend's power of estate trustee is, whoever that falls, it would fall on their estate, right? If I have to be that person who is the estate trustee, then it's all gonna fall on me. There's no reason, there's very little reasons to get out of a real estate contract. That's why I say you have to be careful, because we do them every day. It's really easy just to click all the boxes and fill out the names and not pay attention to what we're doing with our buyers, or to make things very clear to them. But yeah, they're responsible for it still. You can't just get out of it because they pass away. Even if you're the only person on the contract and you pass away, your estate has to then close the sale.
Okay, okay, so it's not a common practice to say that the transaction is null and void in case of the death of
One of the parties, no.
the soul, or even, you know, an automatic, like a 2-month extension for closing in case of, like, is that a
Well,
common
in that
practice?
sort of case, I don't see, now it's not an automatic clause that's pre-printed and written in, but I don't see why lawyer to lawyer, they wouldn't say, hey, look what happened. But again, like we were talking, if you delay a closing, say that seller is bridging financing, that estate would still be responsible for those penalties. I'm sure they'd give some extra time to close the sale though, for something as extenuous as like, as a death or something, for sure.
Okay, no, I was just wondering because I, you know, when I recently bought a property, I was about to put that clause in, and I thought to myself, am I just being morbid? So I didn't, but
It's
as a
not a
buyer,
common clause you see, for sure. If it's a concern, I don't know, maybe if somebody's terminal or if somebody's really elderly, you might be able to put something in, but then I don't see a seller really accepting it, because they would see it as big a possibility as you do for putting in that clause in to begin with, right? So just like, you know, a lot of people used to put in, hey, this is not closing unless I sell my house. Nobody does that in this kind of market anymore, right? It's not something you see.
oh,
If there's
oh,
risk
no,
involved,
a lot
yeah.
of the things now that I've seen is just firm. Everything is firm. A lot of people are doing their own home inspection and having it ready for the
Have it
buyer.
ready. They want to see firm. So I lost a bid last week and I warned my clients, their first time home buyers are nervous. I said, your deal is not firm on some points. I said, they're going to take a lower offer. We have a good offer. And they did. They took 13,000 less than us because it was firm. They don't want to see anything that's going to hold up. They don't want any red flags that might not close, because what was happening is that we were in such a crazy seller's market. You're getting like 15 people coming at you with a bid. You don't want to mess it up for your clients, because if you say yes to the wrong person, you've lost 14 others. Nobody's going to come back that aggressive the next day. It's a really fine-tuned thing you have to deal with, right? So you have to be careful. And so, like I say, if you throw clauses in like that, you're more than likely going to be looked over twice or asked to cross it anyways.
Right, right. No, it's just market has changed in the last few years from when I bought the house to when I had to get, you know, another property. Like it's changed a lot.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And you'll see that. You'll see different patterns as you go on with your real estate license now. You'll see different patterns that happen in the market. Like I always keep on referring to now this little cool down period. Everyone's freaking out. This kind of happened after the 2017 big bidding wars, 2018, it cooled down like this. You know what I mean? And then it just bounces back. It'll come back. So you just got to keep on working through it and navigate it.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
No
For the
problem.
clar-
No problem.
Thank you, Christine.
Excellent. Everybody good?
Hmm.
Awesome. Yeah, so I find attendance is low on Tuesday mornings, but I got a lot of you new guys. I don't mind, I'll do it Tuesday morning. If you guys want.
The
I
long
just,
weekend is okay.
yeah, I know, long weekend, I find nobody comes Tuesday morning, but I mean, I can page out the topic if you guys like. I don't know if some of you new guys here want to join for training on Tuesday morning. I'll leave it up to you because I'm here regardless on a Tuesday morning. Yeah.
I just if you had courage. So you can go over there. Trade.
You can train over on the lake. Absolutely. If you guys are coming to train on the lake, I'm definitely holding a training.
So we're training there.
Yeah.
We'll come.
So I'll page it up for Tuesday morning and hopefully I see all your fresh faces and that'll be good, right? Because yeah. All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. Everyone have a lovely long weekend. Be safe. Enjoy May 2-4. Set off some fireworks. Yeah.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
You too. You too.